Broke Grade Media.
You're now listening to The Straight Shooter Show with your host, The Straight Shooter.
All right. Thank you for taking the time out of your day to spend with us. It really means a lot to us. We put a lot of work into this podcast every week, and you guys are the reason. I mean, we're here for you. So we have a special guest today. He is a co-parenting facilitator. He found me on TikTok after a video I had done about the importance of co-parenting. He has a very large following on Facebook, the Unmarried Father page. I'm gonna let him tell you, how he kind of got into what he does, why he's doing it, kind of the different strategies that he uses, how he helps people out. But before we even get to him, I can't stress enough the importance of parents that can't make their relationship work, continuing to work together for the benefit of their children. Kids need their moms and their dads in their life, equally. A kid is not going to be as well-rounded or as well-balanced if he only has, the one parent, because both parents bring something to the table that those kids need. And besides the fact that, the mom or the dad, they need that time with their child. I mean, it's a father or a mother that is trying to be active in their child's life should not be demonized or, shunned or pushed out for any reason, as long as they are not putting your children in unsafe situations. You should do everything in your power to allow your children to spend as much time with the other parent as possible, especially if you are the primary, you're the custodial parent, and the other parent, wants a little extra time here and there. If it's not going to affect the kid's school or their extracurricular activities or whatever, why not? Let them have the extra time with their kid. I mean, some people may feel like they're taking time away from you, but if you're the custodial, you have them most of the time anyway. So let them have a few extra, nights or a few extra days. I hear so many people complain about, baby mama or baby daddy that's deadbeat, won't show up, won't spend time with the kids or anything. And then you've got these parents that do want to spend time with their kids that are not being allowed to because the other parent has some kind of vendetta or issue with their ex, and they're holding a grudge, and the person that ends up getting hurt the most is the children. So that's kind of my opening for today, because it's a really important, topic for me. It's why I wanted to bring him on the show to talk about what he does and how he does it. And so let's just go ahead and get into it. If you want to get him on the line.
All right, I'll get him. His name's Paul, right?
Paul Propst, yes.
Paul Propst with the Unmarried Father.
Unmarried Father.
Unmarried Father. All right, Paul Propst.
He's on TikTok too, and Facebook under that name.
Okay, cool. Well, I'm excited to hear from him. Let's get to it. Paul Propst.
All right. So I did an introduction right before we brought you on, that you are a co-parenting facilitator with the Unmarried Father out of Texas. If I remember right, your education is as an engineer. And so I wanted to bring you in just to talk about, what all you do, how you help, people how you facilitate people having that joint time, that equal time as much as possible. And then I'll have some questions as we go. So if you want to, just tell me how you got started in it, how this all developed for you, and what exactly you do.
Yeah. So, from step one, I lived this as a child, every other weekend seeing one parent. So as a child, I understand the child's perspective in that. So then when my situation came about as a parent, And we were reaching that point of, breakup, that this is not going to work. And the whole process started to go right towards family court. I was like, oh man, so there was kind of really nothing there to work with. I mean, obviously we couldn't communicate or we wouldn't be splitting up, so, go through the whole process, and the process is overwhelming. There's no rule book on it, no direction and things like that. So, out of my journey, the best thing that happened to me was I came in contact with a nonprofit in Fort Worth, and they facilitate co-parenting classes. Basically, they just walk with families that are around the mess of family court and CPS. And I went through their classes, and they asked me to come back and volunteer, and I thought it was a horrible idea, but I'm like, hey, I'll give it a shot. And fast forward 3 years later, here I am. I'm still a class facilitator for them and a mentor navigator. But New Day, their niche is right here in the DFW area.
Right.
And so in my journey, I started to find out that there aren't many organizations out there like New Day. So this is where the Unmarried Father came in. The Unmarried Father started as a blog just to talk about the perspective of the extra steps that you have to go through when you're an unmarried father, because you have no rights until you're legally given those rights. So, and then we've transformed that, and we've moved it forward to actually into an organization and taking a lot of the core values from New Day and incorporating that into the Unmarried Father. Because, and this is important, and I strive for this, because unless the parents are healthy, the kids aren't going to be healthy.
Right.
So you have to empower parents, and that's really where my heart is. And because there's a lot of parents, actually, I tell you, all parents, we don't know what we're doing.
Yeah. Yeah.
We learn as we go, and it's just all about building a community of, just empowering parents and supporting parents.
So, do you find it through the courts, is it more difficult for a man who has had a child with a woman, but they never got married? Is it more difficult for him to acquire those rights with his child than it is for somebody who was married and got divorced? Or is it the same?
Yes. Yeah, because it's very strange how that works. But unmarried fathers, they find themselves having to prove to the court that they're capable of being a parent, and then when you're married, that's been an intact family, and we all know what the nuclear family looks like. So there's kind of like a presumption that, you're involved and you know how to parent. And there is still that struggle of a father having to prove what kind of parent they are, whether it's married or unmarried. But it's a little bit harder for the unmarried side, because they look at that and that dynamic is extremely fragile compared to the nuclear family, because the lack of support and structure behind it and so on and so forth. So that's kind of the way that that's the struggles that the unmarried fathers face, is automatically from day one, they're in there needing to prove their fitness.
Whereas the mother that has the child, she doesn't necessarily have to prove that she's a quality parent because she carried the child. It's automatically, well, that's her child. So if he wants to be involved, he's going to have to prove some stuff to us. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that's somewhat accurate. And that's when, the whole term, step up to the plate. That's what's hard about all this, is because this is what we're putting on fathers: step up to the plate. Well, weren't you already there? So right. It's like you keep raising the bar with fathers, and it really sucks in our society with that, because a lot of them get discouraged because of the process and they walk away.
Yeah.
Up until I've came into this whole realm of things, I traveled for work for 9 years. And so breakup rate, divorce rate was extremely high with that occupation.
Right.
And I always met parents that, had walked away. The dads that I worked with, they talked about just walking away. And of course I didn't ask any more questions, but in the back of my mind, I thought, man, that's a horrible parent, because I know what it's like to grow up with an absent parent pretty much, because that's what you are when you're every other weekend.
Right.
And I used to think, I'm like, man, these guys are, what's wrong with these guys? Well, but now what I know now, I kind of understand why some walk away. And me personally, I live it, and it's difficult to step up to the plate, so to speak,
Right. Yeah. You and I had talked before about, how in the court, when a couple splits up and they both talk to their attorneys and they don't really know what's going on. They're listening to what their attorney says. And then they go to court and the attorneys talk and they talk to the judge, and the judge says this is the way it's going to be. And in my experience, which I've never had to fight for custody in court, but I have been to plenty of family courts, and I've paid for attorneys for other people, women in my lives who, were having family, court issues. And it's crazy to me that you don't have any idea what's going on. And these attorneys, they talk, they make whatever deal, they talk to the judge, judge says good, and you really don't even hardly ever get to say anything. The judge doesn't want to hear your voice, doesn't want to hear what what the attorney will say. Okay, well, they've been to this class, they've done this, and they've done that. And the other attorney says, well, that's not good enough. And the judge says, I agree, do this, now jump through these hoops over here. And that's end of court. All right, you got 6 months, go do this. And it's crazy to me how the whole court system works. You want to talk about that anyhow? I know you're not an attorney, but you are involved in that.
Yeah. So you got two things going on there. One, ultimately, you're talking to an attorney and you're talking to a judge, and ultimately, in a nutshell, what you're doing, you are putting the power in a stranger's hand to say, this is what's best for your child.
Right.
That's what a lot of people don't fathom. They don't get it. A lot of people, they hurt people and hurt their kids, and they don't know it.
Yeah.
So, in the process, when it all starts, what do? You call an attorney. Well, you're talking to a stranger about your life.
Right.
And you're taking their advice and their lead because they know the law and all this other stuff. But that's what they're doing. They're taking what you're saying from your actual, your family dynamic and putting the law side into it. Mm-hmm. And that always doesn't jive, and somebody's going to get hurt out of the deal. And ultimately it's normally the kids, when both parents are fit, willing, and able. I do understand that there are those parents out there that are neglectful parents, abusing parents. That happens, but on a low rate, right, compared to everything in the grand scheme of things. So you have that dynamic of, you're putting your child's life in a stranger's hand to determine what's best. Then the other dynamic of it is too, we talk about, how the court orders parenting classes and all that stuff, or just orders different things. A lot of parents shoot themselves in the foot because, they do a thing called what I call POJ, pissed off the judge.
Right.
And, they're in there and they're emotional. Their emotions are raw, and we're all emotional about our kids. So they get in there and they pipe off and say something a little sideways or whatnot. And then the judge ends up ordering them into classes and other obstacles to go through.
Right. Right. So do you have any women that come to you or to these classes that they want some time with and the father has become the primary and they're not giving their ex any time with the child?
Yeah. So actually I'm currently working with two moms right now. And in that dynamic where the moms are the non-custodial moms. And that's very interesting. That dynamic there, these moms, they feel shamed because of what our current system has been for 30 plus years, that, and, out of this realm, mom is always going to have the kids. So when mom doesn't have the kids, society looks at that mom and go, what did she do?
Right.
What's wrong with her?
Yeah.
well, is what's happening now. And this is a shift, and it's an unhealthy shift, because that's the whole thing here. We're not having healthy shifts here. So the other unhealthy shift here is now dads, they're starting to understand. They're putting in the effort to understand the system, what they need to do, so on and so forth. So they're walking away with custody.
Right.
And now the mom is the visitor parent.
Yeah.
And so that's not good either, because the kids are still losing either way. Yes. Is it, I do not applaud dads that say, hey, I got custody, because that dad has become the primary parent and the mom has become the visitor parent. There's still a visitor parent here. And what's important is kids to have equal access to their parents. So, but yeah, it happens, and it's an unhealthy shift. Is statistically it's low.
Yeah.
The national average of fathers being custodial parents is like 13%. So yeah, the shift is happening. Like I said, the dynamic just looks a little bit different. How society looks at moms as being the non-custodial parents. They're good parents. So yeah, I'm working with two of them right now, just kind of talking with them and going through their feelings and separating the emotions from the facts, and trying to put up a good plan best for them, that they can go into court and, obviously collaborate with their attorney on this to make sure it all jives. But, ultimately, hey, this is what I'm doing, and this is what I can do to provide for my child and be in my child's life.
I got to tell you, anytime that I've made a video on TikTok where I, have said that I was the primary, I had custody of my son or whatever, tons of comments coming in. Oh, well, his mom must have been a real winner, or, what'd she do, or what's wrong with her? Or, there's always derogatory comments about his mom. And I've said, look, first of all, I didn't fight her in court. I didn't have to fight her in court. We agreed that he would be better with me. But she knew me as a man of character that would never keep him away from her. So like want people to do, I was the primary and he lived with me. But if he wanted an extra night or two or three, or if he wanted to go an extra weekend to his mom's, okay. As long as she's going to be there, as long as she's, spending time with you, as long as she's, doing what she's supposed to do as a mom, absolutely. I'm going to let you go spend extra time. And I always did while he was growing up. If he was there for a week, I might be like, son, it's time to come home. I miss you. I want to spend some time with you too. But almost never told him, if he said, Dad, I want to spend another night. Okay. Go ahead and spend another night. So me and her never, ever, ever had to fight about equal time or, whether she was going to get to have him. I mean, maybe she scheduled Thanksgiving at the same time I did. And I'd be like, well, you should have checked with me, because no, we're doing it. But other than that, there was never a fight. And I just don't understand why that can't be more than, and me and her in the beginning, when we split up, we didn't like each other, but I still didn't take that out on her time with her son, or take it out on my son by his time with his mom. But I didn't like her. And we get along fine now, but in the beginning, you know how it is at the very beginning, you really don't like them. But you cannot take that into account when it comes to what kind of time that your children are going to have with the other parent. So I get what you're saying about, people automatically think the mom must have issues if she doesn't have, In fact, I think it was really big of his mom to come to the realization, he's going to be better off with you. I'm going to let you have him. I'm not going to fight you for custody, because I know he's going to be better with you than he will be with me. I mean, I think that takes a strong person to say that. Don't you?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, absolutely. And that's the thing too, we live in this society where, we can't let people know about our insecurities or about our shortcomings. And that is a huge step for her, which I knew that had to be hard for her to go, you know what, right now, you're the better parent than me.
Yeah.
And that's ultimately what she's saying. And a lot of people don't want to do that. That's why you see the crap in family court. You're fighting insecurities. You're fighting fear, and things like that. And that in itself is hard enough. And then when you involve the dynamics of kids and all that, it's extremely difficult. But that's where we really need to get as a society. And that's where I really stand, is we have to be healthy people.
Right.
And we have to identify these things. And until we work on ourselves, we can't identify it.
Let's talk about you have a pretty large following on Facebook on the Unmarried Father. And it seems to me like it is a very good place for people who are going through this process of trying to get custody or trying to get equal time or going through all that court process, for other people to, talk and share their experiences so that maybe they can learn something from, what the other guy or the other person has been going through. I mean, is that pretty accurate?
Yeah. We have about 70,000 followers on that page, with approximately like 2 million in between 2 million and 2.2 million in reach a week, every 7 days.
Yeah.
But yeah, that page there is more to it at the Unmarried Father than what we do than just a Facebook page. But that Facebook page is step one for these guys to reach out and to start to see that they're not the only ones that's going through this.
Right.
And that there's different ways to deal with this, especially with guys. You see a lot of drug addiction, alcohol abuse, and suicides. Those are the three main things going through this when you're going through the family court system. And unless they have a healthy outlet, the alternative, we all know what the alternative is. So that's step one at the Unmarried Father, is to let these guys know that they're not the only ones. And, you get some sideways comments in there and stuff that's not so positive, but for the most part, everything is really positive in there. Everybody's encouraging one another. Is what I like, is what's good, is my thing to say is always keep focused on doing the next right thing. And it's caught on, because I've seen a lot of the guys in there that, a guy will be venting and he's upset about the situation and all this. And he's saying blah, 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 blah. And I see it in there. And one guy will go, "Hey man, it's okay. We're here. We love you. Keep focused on doing the next right thing."
That's one of my phrases too. I use that fairly often. I don't know if you've heard me say that. That's a good one. If you're always focused on doing the next right thing, how could you go wrong?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, being on Facebook, I understand y'all are way more than just a Facebook page. I get that. By the way, how much money do you make doing what you do for the Unmarried Father?
I don't make any money. It actually kind of costs me money sometimes.
I understand. I don't make any money. I don't make any money doing my thing either. But I've spent some money too doing it. But I thoroughly enjoy doing my TikTok and the podcast here. But being the Facebook page, being international, I guess you got guys and girls from all across the country that can, bounce stuff off each other and talk about different laws in different states and everything. So, I think it's awesome that you've got that Facebook page going and have that outlet for those people to, kind of help each other through that process and how they're feeling and let them know that they're not the only one, that there's tons of people going through that every day. The courts are full all the time. So I appreciate you and that you've got that going on. You're on TikTok too, right? Under the same name, the Unmarried Father.
Yeah, we've got two TikToks. We've got the Unmarried Father, and then I've got one where I'm just talking about the co-parenting stuff, and that's the Unmarried Father TX. Okay.
I didn't know about the other one. I'll have to check it out. I think the TX is the one that I follow. Maybe I'll follow them both. I don't know. I'll have to look and see. You had found me on TikTok initially. I think I had done a co-parenting video, and you'd reached out to me, and I keep telling you I'm going to make some videos for you, and I keep following through, and I'm going to maybe I'll get one done this week and send it to you.
Man, that's where I'm at. There's so much stuff going on, and it's just like I listened to a podcast last week from Joe Rogan, and he talks about time, and he was always good about prioritizing the important things in life, right?
Yeah.
Well, then he finally said, why am I not prioritizing everything? Why am I only prioritizing the important things? So he's got his day to day pretty much on his schedule, and everything is scheduled, no matter whether it's important or less important. But that was really great, because I struggle with that with the time. I have a full-time job, plus I do the in-person co-parenting classes, and then I've got the unmarried father. So it's hard.
Yeah.
Time is extremely hard. And I know what you're doing takes a lot of time, because I know your dynamic looks very similar to mine.
Right. Yeah. I'd like to schedule my days like that, but then, I might eat Taco Bell, and that's going to ruin I won't be able to stay on schedule. That'll throw everything off.
Right.
That was kind of gross, wasn't it, Zach?
Nope, I'm used to it now from you. So, I don't know if you've said it yet, but I'm just kind of interested. Like, what do you do for work outside of everything, and how often do you work and stuff like that?
Well, I've got a full-time job. I work for a structural steel fabricator, and I run their shipping and their paint department. So we've got our own fleet of trucks. So I'm that guy that is probably causing some frustration that you have at work, because I'm making tight schedules, and I'm like, let's get it loaded, let's get it delivered, So, but that's what I do for a living now. And which before that, I was in industrial coatings for 11 years. I quit that career and started over after me and the mother of my child split up, and I moved to Texas and all of that. So
actually, I admire something that you said earlier, that you're not fighting for fathers' rights. Like, you're not out to get women. You're there to help. You want equal rights between everybody.
That's it.
And it just happens to fall that the father most of the time gets the short end of the stick, but if the woman is, then you're going to help them too. And I think that takes a lot of maturity and a lot of like, you're a good person for doing that. Not, like, you're accepting women as well. And you said you're helping two women, and that I really admire that you do that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah. And, and like I said, we have to do that, because it doesn't matter. Children don't look at their parents and go, I love this parent more than this parent.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's exactly why when Paul had, reached out to me initially in the first conversation we had, I knew, yes, I'm on board for this. I'm on board for what this guy, if he had been a mother basher, a woman basher, and been like, guys get screwed all the time, which we all, anybody who says that women don't have the advantage here in courts is misled, or they don't understand. But he wasn't out bashing, women and have this anger against women he wants exactly what you said. He wants what's best for the children, and for both parents to not feel like they are alienated from their children's life.
Yeah. Yeah. I know when I know you haven't heard this from me, but I know Jason has, Paul, but, I got custody of my two girls, and going into it, I was like, I can do this alone. You know what I mean? I can do this alone. I got this. I'm just going to take the girls, and then we'll be fine. We're going to get along with it. It wasn't too long after I got them, I realized that they need their mom. And I started calling their mom quite frequently, saying, hey, you need to get together. These girls need you. They need you back in their life. And I fought with her to get her back. And she did. She got her stuff together. I said, I promise, you give them to me and you get your stuff together, I promise you I will never, ever, ever, ever keep the girls from you. And I haven't. I lived up to that promise. But when I was younger, I did think I could do it alone. And I saw how important it is for the other parent to be in the kid's life. It is crucial.
Yes.
Yeah. and I'm glad you said that, because here's the thing. Newsflash. Mom can't be a dad and dad can't be a mom.
That's right. 100%.
You know?
No, and you're right. That's what I realized. I was like, okay, I need to learn how to do hair. I need to learn how to be girly. Well, I can't do that stuff. I cannot do girl stuff.
I did a video maybe a month ago. Somebody asked me, what do you think the term, it takes a man to raise a man means? And I was like, well, exactly what it says. I mean, I'm not saying a single mom can't raise a fine young man. It can happen, but there needs to be a man in that boy's life, because a woman cannot give the boy everything he needs. She doesn't know what it's like to be a man. He needs a man a quality man in his life, even if he only sees him occasionally, to get that stuff from him. And I believe the same thing for a young girl. I mean, a dad cannot raise, or a mom cannot raise a girl by herself and not have any positive male role model in her life. I mean, it takes both. A child has to have role models from both sexes to get everything that they need to be to be fully functional when they grow up and understand how the real world works, in my opinion. So,
well, and that's a great thing to bring up, because, obviously we know this from the moment of conception. Mom is home base, right?
Right. And
we, as fathers, we enter the child's life from the outside in. That's just the way this works. We can't change that.
That's right.
So, the most ideal scenario, and I'm sure you can relate to this because I know that your parents have been together for 50 plus years, right?
Right.
So I'm sure you've lived this, and no family is different. Like I'm saying, this is the most ideal scenario, so mom is home base. The kids are always going to run back to mom because mom is home base. You're playing outside in the backyard with your kids. Mom and dad are standing there, and the neighbors have a dog, and the dog barks. What are the young kids going to do? They're going to run back towards mom.
Yeah.
Right. So it's dad's job. It's our job as dads to be that buffer out there.
Yeah.
And prepare. And this is what we do. In a nutshell, we prepare our kids for the outside world. Mm-hmm. Think about it at the playground or at the grocery store. How many times have you guys been at the grocery store and seen kids going nuts when they're with mom? Just grabbing stuff, running around, right?
Yeah.
Now look at dads. What do you see when the kids are with dad? Dad, stop, no, walk. This is how we function in public. This is how we function in the world.
That's right.
So now you take that same dynamic and you take it back home. What are we doing with our kids? We're letting them jump on the couch, jump off, do whatever else, right? All this nonsense, pillows up in the air, toys. Mom gets home. Mom sees this. What's mom do? Oh my God, no, right?
You're 100% right.
That's what I mean by home base and by outside, So the home's got to be structured. This is the way that it's got to be, and that's not saying that one is better than the other at all. They're both needed. And when you take one dynamic away, it throws the whole balance off for the kids.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I wanted to tell you something about what we talked about last week. And this kind of falls right in line with that. Is we were talking about single mothers that me and Jason have dated in the past, where the kid was very misbehaved. Like the kid was not, you could tell the kid hadn't been disciplined. And I said, and I believe Jason said this too, that that's not that mother's fault, really. Now, Jason, we were bringing up the point that we wouldn't want to date a single mother in that situation because it'd be hard to bring in the disciplinarian. But maybe that mom is not a disciplinarian, and there needs to be a father in there that is a disciplinarian to do that, because she just can't, and it's not her fault that it's not happening. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, and that's absolutely right. And from a personal perspective, this is why I don't date. That's one of them. It's just very messy, because as a person going into this, you're looking at this going, well, what do I do here?
Right.
But yeah, ultimately that kid doesn't have that balance, and there are such a thing as parents that don't get it. And, there's a mom and a dad, nuclear family, or even ones that are split up but get along and co-parent properly. And there's not that issue of the time.
Right.
But they don't get the discipline. They don't understand their impact as parents. So then you'll have that too. But just in that single mom thing, you got to look at single moms, man, or any single parent that is single-handedly raising those kids on a day-to-day basis. They're overwhelmed.
Yeah.
And so they're like, man, by the time they get home, they don't care. Think about it when we get home from work. We want some time to sit down and go, okay. Yeah. And whatever that may look like for you. Well, they don't get that. So then when you start doing that, and it's a reoccurrence every single day, then that's the fallout that you see, that because they're not getting that they're not getting that balance. And ultimately what they're not getting too is when kids act out, they're not getting attention.
Right. Yeah. What we're talking about on that episode was not that men or women should not be victimized for not or criticized. They should not be criticized for if they don't want to date someone who has young children, because that's their preference. They've thought it through. It's just who they are, and they shouldn't be criticized and say, oh, well, you're a piece of shit because you won't, you automatically, I mean, she's a single mom. So you're not, I've just heard so much of that. And I've done it. I married 2 women who had small children. I was fine. But in my age now, no way in hell do I want to start over training somebody, trying to figure out how to get your kids under control. I'm sorry, but I'm done all that. I'm not going to start doing that again. My son's getting ready to graduate. So I don't think people that don't want to go through that process again should be criticized. I mean, there's guys out there that are okay, that they're ready to do that still. They're younger, maybe, but not for me at 47. But somebody needs to step up. We lost your volume.
Yeah, no, that and and that's what's hard about it. I think too, a guy or a woman, period, it doesn't matter, because this issue crosses all gender. There's no gender divide on it. Whenever you get into a relationship with a parent that has kids, it's hard.
Yeah.
That's why I stay away from it, because I'm just trying to figure out how to co-parent with the mother of my child. That's hard enough.
Right.
Let alone trying to get into that realm. And, then we get into the whole titles of step parent and all that. Me personally, I don't go for that. I just, you're, what the child is perceiving is that you're trying to replace a parent.
Right.
A lot of people don't understand that, they'll get with somebody and they'll be like, oh yeah, you're going to be the stepdad or you're going to be the stepmom. And nobody's really understanding the child's perspective on this.
Right.
And how they're perceiving it. And it's, man, it's tough. Yeah. You walk into that life, but you're going to become a part of that family, and you're going to have this struggles of helping her with the kids and so on and so forth, and what that looks like. It's just dicey and it's hard.
It is.
It's not that people are pieces of crap or selfish and don't want to do. It's hard,
And that's something that I also always tell, people when they're dating, if they're going to date somebody that does have kids, they early on in that dating process, they need to kind of find out what, how do you see me if this progresses and we enter into a relationship? How do you perceive me being involved? I mean, how do you want me? What would you want from me? Do you want me to be the step parent? Do you want me to be the disciplinarian? Do you want only me to be financial? Do you want me to stay completely out and only play with the kid? What all do you want from me? And people need to understand before they get into the relationship what the other person wants from them or what they would expect from them. and then hold them to the fire if they get in the relationship and say, wait a second, you wanted me, this is what you told me, you wanted me to, take over the disciplinarian, or you wanted me to be whatever it is they wanted. If you agree to it, that's what you should stick to. So, and oftentimes it won't.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was saying too, is if I'm going to be in a relationship with a woman with a kid, like either the kid is going to behave or I have to be the disciplinarian. You've got to allow me to do that, or I'm not going to be able to be in that relationship.
Yeah. Because if somebody's not disciplining, if the kids are out of control, if they are, freaking out all the time, and the biological parent is not going to do something about it, the person that is there as the step parent or whatever you want to call them, if they don't do anything about it or not allowed to do anything about it, then the kid perceives that as, well, they accept it too. This is okay because neither one of these adults are doing anything about me acting this way. So I'm just going to keep acting this way. Somebody's got to do something. And oftentimes the biological parent does not want the other person doing anything about it.
Yeah. Is what I tell guys too. I'm like, pay attention to two things. One, how quick, we're talking about guys, your guys' perspective. So, pay attention to how quick that she's going to introduce you to the kids. Mm-hmm. That's going to be a telltale sign on where she stands with her parenting. And two, once you finally do meet those kids, just sit back and watch how she handles the kids.
Yes.
Don't do it from an aspect of trying to criticize on her. Observe. Yeah. Just see and be like, okay, all right. Do I really want to inject myself into this dynamic? And it's hard for us as guys to sit back and observe, because we'll sit back and we'll see that she's struggling with something. And there's a difference between helping and wanting to fix it, because guys go into freaking fix it mode all the damn time. And that's really what ends up hurting us most of the time in relationships. Is because we don't pull out of fix it mode and just be a companion and be there to listen and be there to walk with them.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, let me ask you a question. You said pay attention to how fast the woman introduces you into their life. What do you mean by that? Do you think if a woman introduces you quick to her kids, is that a good or bad thing, and why?
I don't think it's a good thing. And here's why I don't think it's a good thing. And again, this is the child's perspective. Let's say that you meet this person and you go out on a couple dates, and it's been 2 months, and she's going to be like, hey, I want you to meet my kids. Okay. From the child's perspective, at that time, and this is dicey, and this is not a one size fits all type deal. But if you look at it from the aspect of, okay, you date for a couple months, and then finally on the third or fourth month, because now you're starting to see the dynamic of what's going on, and you decide, hey, I don't want to do this anymore. Well, what kind of impact have you had on those kids? And how are those kids going to feel if they connected with you? Because it's what the kids feel. Because if they start seeing the dating in and out of their life, they start thinking that something's wrong with them. Just like when kids think when their parents split up that they had something to do with it. Mm-hmm. So when they've already experienced the trauma or of the family breakup and divorce, now they're kind of like reliving that trauma again when the dating's run in and out, because they're wanting to connect. The kids want to. So it's extremely dicey. I would say, meeting the kids and being involved in the kids' lives is two different things. Mm-hmm. I think after, 4, 5, 6, 7 months, everything's going good with you and mom. And she's like, hey, let's go do lunch. Okay. That's different than going, oh, hey, cool. Hey, what are you doing this weekend? You want to come over to the house this weekend and have movie night, blah, blah, blah. I've got the kids, and you're doing that. Now you're becoming involved in the kids' lives. Rather, because a lot of people, they just go right into that. So, what I tell guys is to look for is her having you meet the kids and interact with the kids, having little interactions is not a bad thing. But when it turns into a, hey, why don't you come over and stay for 3 or 4 days or whatever else, or the weekend, and that's more consistent, that's when the relationship and the interaction between the child and you as the dating person, that's where that connection starts. So, I mean, that's kind of dicey, and it's not a one size fits all. I mean, me personally, my child's never been around my dating life, and it's because of that. And I haven't had a relationship that hasn't lasted over 3 or 4 months anyways, because it's just, I don't have time for it. And I tell them that from the get go, but they don't believe me, I guess. And they want to stick around and see whether I'm telling the truth or not. But, you know, I mean, yeah, I mean, that's just the thing. Interact with the kids, but you don't have to be completely being involved in taking on a parent role.
Okay. So to sum it up, or to, you know, make sure that we're all crystal clear, because I think I agree with what you're saying. And I know it's not, like you said, a one size fits all, but I think, and I want to know if you agree with what I'm saying here, maybe exactly what you're saying, but after, you know, a couple of months, 2 or 3 months, you've been on several dates, things are going good, the parent introduces you all go to lunch. The kids and the 2 dating people all go to lunch. So they have spent a lunch together, you know, maybe they, you know, whatever, some interaction so that the other parent or the other person who is not have kids can see what these kids are about and see how the mom interacts with the kids. But being several months, you know, 9 months before there's any, like, you know, come over for family movie night or actually be involved in what we do in our home with the kids. Is that what you're basically saying? Because I think they need to see how the family works. You know, in the first, I don't think they need to be introducing some random person to their kids the first, you know, 2 or 3 dates. But in the first few months, I think they probably should see what kind of, how they interact, because it could be a deciding factor for them whether they want to stay in that or not, you know?
Yeah, I agree. I think you should wait a period of time, but not wait too long, because you're right. Because I did that. And Paul, maybe you can have a response to this, but when I was dating girls, it's happened twice to me where I had this like 1 month to 3 month time limit to where I was like, okay, I am not going to introduce my girls to this girl for a couple months, you know? And then I get like super attached to this girl. They know I have girls. We've talked about it and stuff like that. Everything's going swimmingly. And then the moment the girls come into the picture, then it goes downhill within a week and they break up. And then that hurts me. And it also hurts them too, because I'm sure it wasn't easy for them to let go, but they decided that wasn't it. And I feel like I got too attached because I waited too long to figure out that she wasn't going to tolerate my girls.
Yeah, and that's good that you brought that up, because it's a double-edged sword, and you have that other side of it as well. You know, that's why I'm saying there is not a one size fits all with all this, and that's what's so hard about this. And you know, I really don't think us as people really understand the impact from step one, from what can be when we decide to lay down with somebody.
Exactly. Yep.
And that's really where all this stems from.
Yeah, because you really could. All this could be fixed if we would have just selected the right partner from the get-go. If we would have just been more patient and selected the right partner from the very beginning.
Yeah.
That could all be fixed. And that's only in a perfect world though, right?
Yeah.
Because divorce rate is higher now than what it used to be, but it could be fixed with that.
I was at the lake. It's been 10 years ago. I was at the lake, met this married couple. I think maybe people I was with knew them. At any rate, really hit it off with them. I mean, like, you know, you are my people. I want to hang out with you guys more. And I was like, so, you know, I don't have my son this weekend. So he's 7. He was 7 at the time, probably 7 or 8 years old. I'm like, I don't have my son this weekend. What weekend do you have your kids? And they were like, every weekend. And I'm like, oh, you mean like y'all had kids together? They were like, yeah, we just have our 2 kids together. We always have our kids. And it was like, I was like, no, everybody has mixed families, everybody has, the weekend, off weekend or whatever. It was just, and then it was like, man, it's sad that that's like a normal question. Hey, what weekend you got your kids? It's
that is
terrible.
crazy, but you're right. You're right. That's the way it is.
It's the norm.
It's normal now. It's well over 50%.
Yeah.
Well over. And that's crazy.
You know what the percentages are on that, Paul?
Yeah. So the national average, 50% of marriages end in divorce. That number has kind of pretty much stayed the same.
What'd you say again? 30%?
50.
50%.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Dang.
That's the national average. Now in Texas, the divorce rate is 50%. 45% of those divorces involve children.
Oh, wow.
So but here's the thing, the divorce rate has not went down and it has not went up. But what has went up is the kids born out of wedlock. 40%. And this is in Oklahoma, because I know Oklahoma statistics also on this one. But 40% is the national average of how many kids are born out of wedlock. 40%. And now you want to get down to the state. Oklahoma's at 40%. Texas is at 40%.
Wow.
So 40% of all kids born are born out of wedlock. Out of all kids born, 40% of them are born out of wedlock.
Yeah.
Correct.
That is absolutely insane.
It is.
That is absolutely insane. It's just becoming the norm.
Well, not really. It's not insane, because think about it, especially my generation. My parents are 60 years old. Their generation normalized divorce.
Yeah.
So now you have my generation that's going, I'd live that crap. I don't want no part of it. And then you look at it from the government side of it. Talk to any man. Hey, what happens when you go through a divorce? Well, I'm going to lose half my crap. I'm going to pay alimony. I'm going to pay child support. I'm going to get to see my kids every other weekend.
Yep.
We know that, and we go, we don't want no part of that, so we're not getting married. But we still want to have fun, right?
Right.
Yeah.
We want to have our fun time. So the fun time has turned into 40% of kids being born out of wedlock.
Yeah.
Yeah, you are right. Society has made it how would I say this? It's not bright and shiny. It's not appealing to get married anymore. It's not appealing.
Yeah.
You've even said that you're not sure if you'll get married again.
I'm almost certain I won't get married again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not interested in that.
Because of not only what you've been through, but watching everybody else go through it as well. What about you, Paul? Do you see yourself getting married again? Is that something that you're looking for?
Well, I've never been married.
Okay.
So I've never been married, and I don't have any intentions on getting married. And I really kind of hope that that's not God's plan for me either, because I'm not going to like it too much.
Oh, that's funny.
All right, Paul. So, man, I'm super thrilled that you came on the show today. I think it's been a good discussion, a good, healthy discussion. We're going to put your TikTok and your Facebook, ads on the description for this podcast. Man, I appreciate all the time, not just that you put into me for this show, but all the time that you donate for all these other guys that are going through the same stuff that you've gone through. And, it takes a hell of a man to put that much time, donated time. Time is so valuable, and you're giving it to all these people. And I just really respect you, and I appreciate you for it. So anything you got before we wrap up our show today?
Just for anybody out there that's struggling, there is a light at the end of the tunnel, and seek the resources and identify what you got going on with yourself. So many people get wrapped up in the pointing finger and mudslinging and divorce and family breakup. Don't be focused on what you can't control. Sorry. Hey, honey, can you give me like 2 minutes of not yelling at me? I understand you want me to zip the bag. Can I zip the bag in 2 minutes? Dude, she loves taking Ziploc bags and filling them up with water and hanging them upside down.
If she would do it, if she would dump that water on Dad for camera, I think that'd be good content here.
Be a viral video.
She looking at you funny now?
Wouldn't even have to talk her into it.
Yeah.
But anybody that's going through the whole thing, just focus on yourself and keep focused on doing the next right thing, and don't worry about the mudslinging contest of family court and all of that, and just remember that no matter what everything looks like, how restricted you are to your kids, or whether you're not seeing your kids at all, you are impactful as you're on your kid's life, period. Your influence carries your influence. A neat statistic is you have an impact on 3.5 generations.
Ooh. Yeah.
So, just kind of keep that in mind and keep moving forward. Our kids need us.
Yes, absolutely. Good words.
Yeah, and I appreciate you dealing with the technical difficulties that we experienced in the beginning. I apologize for that, but we definitely appreciate you coming on, and I definitely respect what you do, and I'm going to be checking you out some more as well.
Yes. All right. Well, you may not always agree with everything that I say here, but one thing's for sure, I'm always going to shoot you straight.
You have been listening to The Straight Shooter Show. Come back every Wednesday for new episodes.